All right, so let's talk about parallel, skew, and transversals. So, as a reminder, parallel lines, they never intersect. They're the same distance apart. They go in the same direction. They're in the same plane, basically meaning that they're the opposite sides of a parallelogram. So, parallel, loop, loop. And then you could draw lines on top and bottom, and suddenly you'd have a four-sided shape, and it'd be nice looking and everything like that. Skew lines also never intersect. Um, but they go in different directions and they are in different planes. You cannot draw a nice box using skew lines. Um, and so basically what's going on is you have a line like this, and then one is like in front of it or behind it. If I had super stretchy arms, like Miss Marvel or Elastic Man or something like that, my hands, if they went on forever, they would never intersect. They would never touch. Yet they're obviously not parallel because they're not going in the same direction. So skew lines, um, they never intersect, but they don't go in the same direction. And that's what I've tried to show here. But you can't see what I'm saying when I say here. You know, skew lines never intersect, different directions, different planes. So just as a note, these are all parallel lines, and you've got to know that this symbol here, that means parallel. Um, CG, which goes up and down here, is parallel to DH, which is here. Da, 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 da. And don't forget, these are line segments because they don't go on forever, which is why there's no arrows there. And then AC and GH, because as I've drawn here, those two are never going to touch. BF and CD, they never touch, but they go in different directions. So, a transversal. It's a line that intersects parallel lines. So if you see here, bloop, bloop, and if you remember correctly, you have to have these arrows, or else it means, or else they're not parallel. Those arrows have to be there to show the parallel. So any line that just crosses those are, whoa, whoa, what did I just do? Um, it's called a transversal. Transversals create four types of angles pairs. And that's what this whole section is about, basically. So, number one thing you've got to know is boom, boom, boom. Number one, corresponding angles are the same place on the X. So, if you just think of each of these like intersections of the transversal, 1, 2, 3, 4 is one X, 5, 6, 7, 8 is another X, they're in the same spot. So, angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. They're in the same spot. They're on the top left, right? Top left, top left. 3 and 7 are also corresponding because they're on the bottom left, bloop and bloop. 2 and 6 are corresponding, top right, and 4 and 8 as well. And it's important to notice they are congruent. They are the same. When we talk about stuff in the next section, that's very, very important. Okay, alternate interior angles. Alternating means opposite, switching, so they're on opposite sides. Interior means inside. Another way of thinking of it is diagonal. So they're touching the same transversal, which if you remember, that's the thing that's going through the parallel line. So they've got to be touching that same line. Um, and they're on the inside of the parallel lines, right? And they're diagonal from each other. So basically, when I talk about the inside of the lines, it's if you look at those parallel lines, they've got to be on the inside of it. So you're literally ignoring everything on the outside of these lines. So you're like, nope, that's the wrong button. You can't see all the random stuff that's happening, I don't think. You're ignoring everything. Well, that's literally deleting everything on the outside of the lines. So we're only thinking interior. 2 and 7 are alternate interior because they're touching that same middle line, but they're on opposite sides. They're diagonal. And then 4 and 5 are also alternate interior because they're on the inside of those lines, and they are diagonal from each other. Boom, boom. I'm going to get rid of all these lines now because they are annoying. All right. Then we go to the next side, which is alternate exterior, which is basically the same thing. Alternating, remember, meaning opposite or diagonal, switching sides, exterior meaning outside. They got to touch the same transversal, but now they're on the outside of the lines. So, I don't know. This is our transversal here. So they've got to be touching that line, or else it doesn't count. And now we're looking at the exterior. So you're ignoring everything inside. You don't care about it at all. So it's like blue, 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 blue. Ignore this right now. So if you look at angle, what did I say? Angle 3 and angle 6, they are diagonal from each other, right? This is angle 3. You go diagonal across that line, and they're on the outside. To angle 6, they're alternate exterior. And then 1 and 8 would be alternate exterior as well. They are also congruent. And I forgot to say that for alternate interior, congruent. Like I said before, that's super important. Okay, consecutive is the last thing you've got to know. That's the number 4. Boom. And consecutive means nothing in between. So like if you went to 100 consecutive days of work, that would mean 100 days in a row without a gap or anything like that. Nothing in between, no interruptions, just straight in a row. So that's what consecutive means. Sometimes it's called consecutive interior, CI. Also same side interior. There's nothing in between them. They're next to each other. They're on the same transversal, which is one of these lines. Should probably actually use the line tool. Nothing between them. So 2 and 5 are consecutive. There's nothing between them. They can walk to each other. They can high five. 4 and 7 are also alternate consecutive. Now, what's important is they're supplementary. They add to 180. So whenever they're right next to each other with nothing between them, they are adding to 180. And so we did this next part together, but so it's here. 11 and 22 is the first one I asked. So, and what I had said during class was it's really a good idea to highlight. So you find 11, you find 22, and then you kind of highlight the lines that they touch. So if you did that, you would notice they're on the inside of these lines. They're on the inside of these red lines, right? And then they're on opposite sides of each other, which means they're alternate interior. Bloop, bloop, bloop. 4 and 16. It's 4 and 16. That's where if you look at these as a big X, this one's on the right-hand side, this one's on the right-hand side. They're on the parallel lines. They're touching the same transversal, same place, corresponding. 15 and 18. 15 is here, 18 is here. And this is one of those ones where you've got to be very careful to make sure you're ignoring everything. So that was 15, 18. So A lot of people will get this wrong because they will look at it and say, well, 18's on the interior. But you could literally, what you should do is you're almost ignoring every single other line. You don't care about them. Boom, 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 boom. So if you erased everything else, right, now you can see 15 and 18 are on the outside of the parallel lines, and they're on opposite sides, so they are alternate exterior because they're on the outside. So 8 and 11, there's nothing between them. They're right next to each other. You could draw a line consecutive. The last thing I was talking about was 24 and 34. They look consecutive. They are right next to each other. The problem is I said same transversal. Transversal means parallel lines. These two lines are not parallel. They will obviously, if I extended them, they're going to meet. So 24 and 34 are nothing. You can only do this when they are parallel. And yeah, those are parallel angle pairs.